The forest was alive with sound. Growls echoed through the night as Lyria and Kale moved carefully, the trees bending slightly as if afraid of their presence. Every step they took, the ground seemed to hum with the pulse of unseen power. Lyria's wrist throbbed with the faint glow of her mark, and she felt it like a heartbeat separate from her own. Kale led her through a hidden path that twisted deep into the forbidden woods. His cloak swept the ground like flowing water, and his presence seemed to command the shadows themselves. Lyria kept her gaze forward, but she could not stop stealing glances at him. His expression was unreadable, strong, patient, and yet haunted by centuries of solitude. "This way," he murmured, voice soft but carrying authority. "The deeper we go, the safer you will be from both your kingdom and the night creatures." She wanted to trust him, but the fear in her chest refused to disappear. "Why me?" she asked. "Why not someone else? Why save me?" Kale's eyes flicked toward her, his crimson gaze bright against the darkness. "Because your mark binds you to a power older than this world, and I cannot let it fall into the hands of those who would destroy you, or the balance between our kinds." Lyria swallowed. "Balance? What do you mean?" He stopped and turned fully toward her. The moonlight caught his pale skin, highlighting the sharp angles of his face. "Long ago, humans and vampires made a promise," he said. "A pact of protection. The bond was meant to prevent bloodshed between our worlds. But the pact was broken and the curse was born." Lyria looked down at her wrist. The mark pulsed faintly, almost like it had a mind of its own. "And I am the key?" Kale nodded slowly. "Yes, you were born to heal what was broken, but you will need guidance and strength, and choices that only you can make." The citadel of shadows. After hours of walking, they reached a clearing where ruins stood, half buried in vines and mist. This was Kale's ancestral citadel, a place of power untouched by human hands for centuries. Its walls were tall black stones carved with strange runes that glowed faintly in the night. "This place," Lyria whispered, awe filling her voice. "It's beautiful." Kyle did not smile. "It is also dangerous. Many creatures reside here, loyal to no one. You must be careful." Inside the citadel, the air was thick with old magic. The shadows moved as if alive, bending around Kale's presence. Lyria felt a strange warmth in her chest, a feeling she had never known. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, not as a cursed child, not as a pawn, but as someone with a purpose. Kale guided her to a room with mirrors that reflected not only their images but faint visions of the past, moments of betrayal, sacrifice, and forgotten promises. Lyria's reflection shimmered, and she saw herself not as the palace had made her feel, unwanted, but as a person of power, marked for destiny. "You will need to understand your power," Kyle said. "The mark is more than a symbol. It can heal or destroy. You must learn control." Lyria's hands shook as she reached for the mark. Light flared, painting the room in pale blue. Shadows recoiled as if afraid. She felt the power coursing through her, wild and untamed, but also familiar. It felt like coming home. The growing bond days passed in training. Kale taught Lyria to focus her mark, to sense the flow of magic around her and to communicate without words. Every time she faltered, he caught her hand, steadying her, his touch firm but careful. Every time he lost control, she steadied him with a quiet strength he had not felt in centuries. Slowly, an unspoken bond grew between them. It was not love in the simple sense, yet neither could deny the pull between them. Their silences were heavy with meaning. Their glances lingered longer than necessary. The forest, the citadel, even the wind seemed to recognize this connection. Bending around them like a protective veil, one evening, Lyria sat on the edge of a balcony carved from black stone, staring at the moon. Kale joined her silently, standing just behind her, his presence a shadow that did not frighten her. "You are stronger than you realize," he said softly. "Do not doubt your worth." Lyria shivered, though it was not from cold. "I have never been strong. I have only survived. And surviving is strength," Kale replied. "Many kings and queens would not endure half of what you have. Yet here you are." Her heart lifted slightly, though her lips remained closed. For the first time, she felt she could belong somewhere, even if it was only by his side. The truth revealed the next morning, Kale took Lyria to the deepest chamber of the citadel. A large pool of still black water reflected the moonlight through a broken ceiling. Strange runes pulsed around it, This pool shows what is hidden, Kale explained. You must see it if you are to understand your role. Lyria leaned over the water. Images shimmered. Her birth, the curse, the betrayal of the pact between humans and vampires. And then she saw something that made her catch her breath. Herself, standing beside Kale, surrounded by a glowing bond of light and shadow. A future possibility, fragile but powerful. You were never born to be a pawn, Kale said quietly. You were born to change the fate of your kingdom. And ours. Tears filled Lyria's eyes. For the first time she understood that her life, her pain, her loneliness, all had meaning. The kingdom strikes. No one waited for destiny to unfold quietly. From the distance, the sounds of war reached the citadel. Soldiers from her kingdom had tracked her, bringing fire and weapons. The night creatures that once hunted her now moved under the command of greedy humans, seeking to claim her mark. Lyria's heart raced. They're coming, she said, gripping Kale's arm. I don't know if I can stop them. Kale's red eyes blazed. You can, and you will not be alone. Together they stepped into the courtyard as soldiers advanced, their torches casting long shadows. Kale's power surged and Lyria felt her own magic rise, wild and fierce. The mark on her wrist glowed brightly, a beacon of her strength. Shadows twisted around them, forming barriers and shields that no human force could penetrate. The clash began. Lyria's courage burned brighter than any fear. She no longer felt like the unwanted daughter. She was a force of destiny, a key to a future no one else could imagine. Kale fought beside her, moving with the precision of centuries, protecting her, guiding her, never letting her falter. When the battle ended, silence fell. The soldiers had fled, unable to withstand the power of the bond between Lyria and Kale. The night was quiet again, but it was not the same. Lyria felt the pulse of her mark stronger than ever. She had passed the first trial, but she knew more dangers awaited. The emotional climax. Kale stood beside her, close enough that the air between them felt charged. Lyria looked up at him, the moonlight painting his face in silver and red. You were never loved by your kingdom, he said softly, but you have been seen by me, and you are more than they could ever understand. Lyria's eyes filled with tears. I have never felt that before. Never anyone caring. Kale's gaze softened, almost tender. I do not promise it will be easy. The world is still dark and challenges are coming. But I promise, I will not let you face it alone. Her hand brushed his almost by accident. The warmth of the gesture was enough to make the mark flare brilliantly, and for a moment it felt like time itself had stopped. I trust you, she whispered. And that is all I ask, Kale replied. They stood together as the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon. The curse had not yet fully lifted and the future remained uncertain. But Lyria no longer felt small. She no longer felt unwanted. With Kyle by her side, she felt the weight of destiny and the first flicker of hope. Ending cliffhanger. As they looked toward the horizon, a deep tremor shook the ground. The sky darkened even as the sun rose. From the far edges of the forest, a new presence stirred, older, stronger, and hungrier than any threat they had faced before. Kale's crimson eyes narrowed. The first trial is over, but this is only the beginning. Something awakens, something that will test everything we are. Lyria clenched her fists, feeling the warmth of her mark and the presence of Kale beside her. Then we face it, together. The wind howled through the trees, carrying whispers of destiny and danger. Two fates intertwined, standing against the darkness, ready to fight for a future only they could shape. And somewhere in the shadows, an ancient force watched, waiting for the moment to strike. End of Part 2. The kingdom of Etherian was a land touched by beauty and darkness. Its towers stood tall like silver spears piercing the sky, yet shadows clung to every stone as if the world itself feared to breathe too loudly. A curse lay on the royal bloodline, a very old curse whispered by elders and feared by children. Some believed it was just a story, others felt it every time the air grew colder near the palace. But no one felt the curse more than Lyria Vale, the king's unrecognized daughter. She walked through the palace halls like a ghost, seen but never truly noticed. Servants bowed to everyone except her. Nobles looked at her with stiff smiles that carried nothing but judgment. Even the king, her father by blood, never called her by name. In official records, she did not exist. They called her the cursed child, though no one dared say it to her face. Lyria had learned long ago that she was not welcome in the golden world she was born into. Her room was small, placed far from the main chambers as if even her presence might infect the royal family. She ate alone. She trained alone. She lived her life as if she had been born for nothing. Yet despite this, her spirit did not break. She held on to a quiet strength, a determination to survive even if no one wished her to. She tried to ignore the strange mark burned into the skin of her wrist, a pale symbol shaped like two wings folding into a crescent. Whenever she felt fear or anger, the mark shone with a cold blue light. Lyria never understood why. The royal court believed the mark was proof the curse had chosen her. She believed it was simply one more reason for everyone to hate her. The kingdoms fear one autumn evening. The council summoned the king for an emergency meeting. Lyria should not have been anywhere near that hall, but fate had a strange way of guiding unwanted children. She had been returning from training, her arms tired and bruised, when she heard sharp voices through the council chamber door. "The borders are crumbling," one advisor whispered urgently. "Creatures of the night have begun crossing into our lands." "And what do you propose we do?" the king asked, his voice heavy. "Your Majesty," said another, "the curse grows stronger every year. It must be fed. A sacrifice is required." There was a long silence. Then someone spoke very softly, but Lyria heard every word. "The girl. Use the girl. The bastard child carries the mark. She is destined for this." Lyria froze. A cold wave washed through her body. Her heartbeat rang in her ears. She waited, praying the king would reject the idea, but instead came a slow, tired answer. "Prepare what needs to be done." Her world cracked. She backed away from the door, her breathing uneven. They were going to sacrifice her. The girl they never claimed. The girl they never loved. Her legs moved before her mind caught up. She ran through the halls, down the stairs, and out the palace gates. Guards saw her but did not chase her. Lyria often slipped away to hide in the gardens. No one imagined she would run to save her life, but she did. She ran until the palace lights disappeared behind her. She ran until trees swallowed the sky. She ran into the forbidden woods, a place everyone feared, because the shadows there held old secrets, and even the bravest knights refused to walk beneath its twisting branches. Lyria had no choice. The woods welcomed her with silence at first. Then the mark on her wrist began to burn, brighter and brighter, as if calling towards something hidden deep inside the forest. She stumbled forward, clutching her wrist, but the cold fire only grew stronger. "Please stop," she whispered, voice shaking. Not now. The mark did not listen. The shadows thickened. Leaves rustled. Something moved behind her. Lyria spun, heart pounding, only to find glowing eyes staring out from the darkness. A creature stepped forward, its skin pale as bone, its mouth opening too wide. She had seen drawings of these monsters in old books. They were called nightspawn, beings pulled from the darkness of broken magic. Lyria stepped back. Then it lunged. The alpha vampire, a blur of black light, slashed across the clearing. The creature flew backward and shattered against a tree with a sickening crack. Lyria gasped. A figure stepped between her and the dying monster, tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in darkness that moved like living shadow. His hair fell like midnight silk down his back, and his eyes glowed with a red that was not entirely mortal. A vampire, but not just any, an alpha. Ancient, powerful, feared by all kingdoms. He turned his head slightly, looking at her, and in that moment, the woods seemed to bow to him. His voice was deep, calm, and strangely soft. "You should not walk alone in a place like this." Lyria tried to speak, but her voice refused to obey. The alpha stepped toward her, slow and controlled, like a predator making sure not to frighten a wounded animal. Then his gaze dropped to her wrist. The mark was glowing. His eyes widened, not with threat, but with something like recognition. He reached out, stopping inches away as if seeking permission. Lyria did not move. Very gently he touched the mark. It went silent. No burning, no cold fire, just calm. He drew in a slow breath. Then he whispered, "This mark belongs to me." Lyria jerked her hand back. "No, it doesn't. I belong to no one." His lips curved slightly, not in amusement but in fascination. "You should," he said quietly, "because this mark is ancient magic. and it ties you to me. I don't even know you, she said, voice shaking. I am Kale Raverin, he answered, Alpha of the last vampire dynasty. And you, girl with the cursed mark, are in a danger far greater than you understand. Two broken fates collide. Lyria tried to keep her distance, but her legs were weak, and her heart still raced from the attack. Kale noticed. You are hunted, he said. Not only by my kind. Your own kingdom seeks your blood. She stiffened. How do you know? Because every kingdom has tried this before, he replied. A sacrifice to silence the curse. A foolish, desperate act. His eyes softened for the first time. It was never meant to be you. Lyria felt something twist in her chest. She shook her head. Then why was I born with this mark? Why do people hate me? Kale stepped closer, his expression becoming serious, almost heavy. Because your mark is a bond, a rare one. It binds human and vampire in a connection that goes deeper than simple destiny. Long ago, this bond was created to keep peace between our worlds. But when it was broken, the curse was born. And you think this bond chose me? She whispered. Not think, he said softly. No. The woods grew colder around them. A distant howl echoed through the trees. More creatures were coming. Kale glanced toward the sound, then faced her again with quiet intensity. You have two choices, he said. Return to your kingdom where they will sacrifice you before dawn. Lyria's breath trembled. Or, Kale continued, come with me. Learn the truth behind your mark. Learn why fate brought you to these woods. And perhaps, change the future of both our worlds. His red eyes held hers. Steady and unblinking, Lyria felt the cold wind on her skin, the weight of her lonely life pressing on her shoulders, the fear of the council's plan and the strange, burning pull of the mark whenever Kale was near. Her voice was small when she spoke. Why would you help me? Kale replied in a quiet, fierce tone. Because you are not a sacrifice, Lyria. You are a key. And I will not let the world destroy you before you understand your worth. The shadows grew darker. The ground trembled as unseen creatures closed in. Kale extended his hand toward her. Choose. Now. Lyria stared at his hand, the hand of a creature she was taught to fear, a stranger whose presence made her heart race, a being who saw her in a way no one ever had. Her world was ending behind her. A new world waited in front of her. She took a single breath, and the moment before she made her choice, the woods erupted with growls, and the night swallowed the clearing whole. End of Part 1 cliffhanger.